just mute my phone just in case.
Sure. Okay, I guess we are live. Thank you, Salil. Thank you for joining in. To the audience, let me introduce myself. I'm Ashwani. I'm a founder and CEO of SecOps Solution. So we are essentially a cybersecurity company helping organizations identify and manage and patch cybersecurity risks in their entire tech stack. And We have Salil with us from AdNabu. Salil, if you can, quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Salil, co-founder of AdNabu. We help Shopify merchants do new customer acquisition. We did not start out as this company. We were maybe I can explain that along in this session as well. But we started out as Google Ads optimization software. Later pivoted, trying to find our product market fit, right, to what we are doing right now. I hope I add some value to this conversation, and I hope all of the people who are listening to it find some value from it as well.
For sure, Sahil. I'm personally also quite excited to conduct this session because the agenda or the topic of the session is finding product market fit as an early stage startup, and because we
Right.
ourselves are at early stage, I'm sure this would be very helpful, and I'm super excited about it. Uh,
Mhm.
so uh, so PMF in general, Sali, there are a lot of connotations and like a lot of books have been written about it.
Right.
Lean Startup also, which is by the way a really good book. The
Yeah.
folks should check it out. So it also touches upon it a bit. So product market fit is something that is like most folks talk about it, but it's not really clear to most folks. So before we, however, jump to the PMF,
Hmm.
I just want to touch base on what AdNabu does so that
Hmm.
everyone has a better context of what we are discussing here. So if you can tell us a little bit about the problem that you are solving for your customers at AdNabu, if you can just
Sure.
dive deep in that.
Sure. The problem that I'm solving, my target customer is a Shopify merchant, right? Ideal target customer is a Shopify merchant in the advanced or the Shopify Plus plan. So these are like slightly larger merchants, not the really small ones, right? Um, they need different channels to find new customers, right? New customers is a very important part of growing their business. Um, and we want to help Shopify merchants get these new customers, right? So typically you would get these customers by running ads, right? So we want to enable those ads. So one of the first things that we're currently doing, I think this is like one of the first steps for us. There are more steps to do. Is helping them with their Google Shopping, right? So we have an app in Shopify App Marketplace for Google Shopping. We are going to come up with solutions for Instagram, for Facebook ads, all of the ads. So anywhere a Shopify merchant would want to acquire customers, we want to be there present and helping them get these newer customers.
Sounds pretty interesting, Salil. So, Salil, you did mention that this was not the actual product that you guys started with. There
Right.
was a pivot. So, how did you identify this particular problem to
Mhm.
work on?
So, as I told you, like we started out as a Google Ads optimization software, right? And we had customers, right? And this is something that I, for the longest time, thought that because I have some paying customers, I have product market fit, right? And even I remember this conversation when I first had it with Prasanna, right? I was telling him that, hey, we have product market fit, right? Like we just need some marketing dollars, and like then we will like go nuclear. But that is probably the wrong thing to assume, right? Like just because you have few paying customers doesn't mean that you have product market fit. And we were trying to like reposition ourselves to find this product market fit. So when we started out, we were a horizontal player. We were trying to optimize Google Ads for everyone. Then we
Mhm.
realized the problems of e-commerce customers are more better solved using our software. So we wanted to position just for e-commerce. Then from e-commerce, we realized that hey, Shopify has the kind of Shopify customers are deriving more value from our product. So let's
Right.
target just Shopify customers then. But even after saying all of that, right? Even after this hyper segmentation, we were not able to sell the Google Ads software predictably, right? So we had to shut that thing down. But we, in that process, we gained a lot of insight about what really these guys want, right?
Mhm.
What our Shopify customers really want. That's how we started on the new customer acquisition part as our the problem that we want to solve, and we are now trying to enable that and be closer to that customer's problems.
Interesting. So, Salil, you mentioned that you have been working with few large merchants. So, if we talk about in terms of ideal customer profile, that terminology, so who are your customers? Is it enterprise or is it SMB? And I would go a step further and I would request you to define what an enterprise or an SMB means to you.
Mhm. Yeah, to be honest with you, right? Even I struggle with these terminologies, right? Is it SMB and is it enterprise? Uh, in Shopify ecosystem, anyone who's using a Shopify Plus program is paying at least $2,000 a month to Shopify. So they are at least having 2,000 to 5,000 orders minimum in their store, right? So they are not like your Nikes and Adidas kind of enterprise, but they are not a hobbies store, right? Like it's a
Right.
serious business. So in Shopify environment, Shopify Plus is enterprise, right?
I see.
When I think about it. So we want to move closer to that, but because we are in a marketplace, right? We cannot like really stop smaller merchants from installing our app or using our solution, right?
Mhm.
But we have like some kind of a price filters to kind of serve all of these customers. But our primary focus when it comes to product development, when it comes to marketing, is geared towards the Shopify Plus customers. So I still think in the larger SaaS ecosystem, we will be still doing SMB, right? We are not doing an enterprise sales. Even for the Shopify Plus customers, our ACV would be around few thousands of dollars a year, right? Not in the higher number, like lower few thousands of dollars a year. But we are still, we are learning a lot with respect to that. Most of our customers are still not the Shopify Plus customers. Is the long tail of Shopify stores.
Interesting. So if I'm to understand this correctly, you categorize an SMB or your ICP based on the number of orders they receive per day. Is that
Yeah,
your filter?
it's a proxy for us now, right now, right?
Okay.
So number of orders is something that we consider. We also consider the shop plan, right? Which is Shopify Plus basically means this is the highest plan for Shopify merchants. Advanced is like just one level below. We also consider the age of the shop, right? That's a good indicator for us, showing that the store is stable, right? Like they have been with Shopify for some amount of time, they won't churn. So as I said, it's a moving target. The ICP is like never a constant, but we are moving towards larger Shopify merchants who have been around in the Shopify ecosystem for a long period of time and processing good number of orders.
Interesting. And is geography and demographics, do they also form a parameter for you?
Because we don't get these info that easily. Geography, yes, obviously we can, right? And to be honest with you, we haven't seen a lot of difference in behavioral difference from North American customers to European customers, right? Like they behave almost very homogeneously. And anyway, we get 90% of the customers from US, Canada, Europe, Australia, basically developed nations, right? Like they use Shopify a lot more than India, for example. So the behavior has been largely consistent. So geographically, we don't like have a lot of focus. We like try to serve everyone. With respect to demographics, that's a data that's very hard to get for us, right? Unless and until we like do a typical sales process, and we don't do that. It's a self-serve product, right? People just use the app, install the app. It's a completely product-led model for us, right? So it's very difficult to get the demographic data. And we are not like really worried about it, right?
Interesting. I remember I was listening to an interview by Karan Bajaj from White Hat, and
Mhm.
he mentioned this point that people are more similar than dissimilar across the globe, but I thought that was more true for the consumer products and consumer companies. But yeah, this
Right.
is interesting to know that the same, at least in your case, is getting applied for the B2B SaaS space as well.
Right, right. I think there are differences for sure, right? Like not saying that there are no differences. For example, European customers we have seen would are more likely to have multilingual sites, right?
Hmm.
Whereas a store in US wouldn't like care much about other languages. So yeah, there are similarities, but in terms of buying, the way how they buy products or in how they interact with you, they interact with the software, we haven't seen a significant difference to warrant more focus.
Interesting. So that what you're trying to say is like the entire PMF and the GTM strategy that you have, you can pretty much replicate most of it in these different regions.
Yeah, and also we our go-to-market strategy is a marketplace strategy, right? And when you are in marketplace, you give up a lot of control, right?
Hmm.
So what happens is that suddenly you can't say that um, people from Germany cannot install this app. Like if they
Right.
can, they will, right?
Right.
And you have to customize your. So, for example, internationalization is very important for us.
Hmm.
We have around 20 languages in which our app is translated to. So, right, even a developer actually writes out a new code. They have to keep that internationalization in mind, right, while writing that code. So there are some challenges with respect to marketplace based thing, but there are like a lot of advantages, right? Like when you ship a new feature, or when you suddenly have access to that entire people, right? You don't have to do anything to get installs automatically. You get installs every single day.
Right.
So advantages, disadvantages, you have to play it well, right? Like if you
Right.
are to run this, you have to be in good books of Shopify. You have to maybe build for them, build the way they ask you to do. But I think there is a mutual beneficial relationship with Shopify and Shopify app partners as
No, certainly. And so like I'm noticing here that the kind of clarity you have about different customer personas and what is working for them. Also, like your dependencies, I'd say Shopify is an ecosystem that you're dependent on. So you have a phenomenal clarity at this point. But I want to take you back to the initial journey of
well.
AdNabu. So
Right.
in terms of PMF, what was your understanding when you really started with the current product of AdNabu, and over the years, what has changed?
See, when I started, I always thought that problem solution fit is product market fit, right?
Okay.
And it is different, right? So problem solution fit is that you have a solution which solves a problem for a customer, right? It does not mean that you can reliably sell that software to the same type of customers, right?
Hmm.
I think product market fit is a combination of problem solution fit and maybe the product market, not product market fit, like reliable way of like selling the same thing, right? Like replicating the same thing, right? It has to
Hmm.
be a combination of that, and then you can say it is a product market fit. And I, for the longest time, imagined problem solution fit to be the right thing. I always thought if I then I have a marketing problem. Actually, I don't have a marketing problem. I have a go to market strategy problem, right? Which is two different things. A marketing problem would be that you have a GTM strategy figured out, and then you want to like increase from, let's say, X to 2X, right?
Hmm.
That can be a marketing problem, right? But a go to market strategy problem is that you haven't even figured out the X, right, where you can reliably get X number of customers. And I think that's where most of us get blinded, and not focus a lot on solving those issues as
Interesting. So so Salil, at what point in time did you guys started to get like a recurring, like a established recurring revenue, and did you feel like that was a point of PMF for you?
Yeah, this is a cliched thing, right? But people do say that when you have PMF, you know it, right?
Yeah.
And even though it's a cliche, I think that is true, right? I still remember, when we never had, we have before PMF, right? We always had this. some months when like revenue would go down, some month revenue would go up, sometimes it will go down. But when you have that PMF, every single month it grows, right?
Interesting.
And I think like that is a sure short way of saying that you have product market fit for some audience, right? Doesn't mean that because you have product market fit for some audience, you will build $1 million business, right? I think that those things are like two different things, right? Even if you have product market fit, maybe you will get stagnated after some time because the problem that you're solving, the value that you're providing to your customers is not that high, and it has a total addressable market which is like less, right? But you will be able to know that you have hit PMF for a small segment of users for a particular problem once you reliably see that growth without much effort from your side, right? Because you have already done your effort, then it's
Right.
like reliably coming in every single month.
Awesome. So Salil, when you mentioned that, you have figured out a PMF for a particular set of customers, right? So
Mhm,
have
mhm.
there been instances when there is a customer not from that segment and you have said no to them because you felt this is not my ICP, or, serving them in overall terms would actually cost you more. So have you said no to any of the customers, and how did that conversation turn out?
Yeah, I have. This is probably in the early stages of while we were trying to figure out PMF, right? We had made this decision that will only serve to retail customers, right? And if you know about Google Ads, like a lot of people in the financial sector, right? Fintech, they spend a lot of money in Google Ads for customer acquisition, right? So it's a hard thing to say no to money, right?
Right.
When big customer comes in and they tell you that, hey, we want to use your software. But we have done that, right? It was painful, but I think it is important that you have focus. So maybe saying no to those customers helped us identify that, identify the PMF faster. We had to shut down that product, but even then, if I had spent time on like serving multiple type of customers, I think that would have been a distraction, which should have elongated this journey, right? So I'm happy in hindsight about doing that, but it was not an easy call, right? It still was a very difficult call.
Interesting. So, Salil, just moving back to one of the previous answers, you mentioned that checking for if revenue is constantly increasing.
Right,
That's.
right.
I just want to dive deeper there and understand: are there any other metrics that you currently measure to check whether you are hitting a PMF to perhaps a newer segment, or doing a little better in your existing segment?
Um, See, I don't think I have a very scientific way of doing it. See, one of the things that I do is measure the zeroth month revenue, right? Which is that um, what is the revenue that I got from customers who joined, use the software last month, right? Is that number growing, right?
Hmm.
For me, I think if that number is consistently growing, um, then you are safe, right? Because that number is very very critical. Because even if that number slows down, right, for a few months, your revenue will still increase,
Yeah.
right? Because because you have the zero, the last month you have 2-3 months before, that growth is there. So even if that zeroth month revenue decreases for a few months, you will see that your MRR would consistently increase for a few months, but after a few months it will start plateauing, right? So for me, that zeroth month revenue is very very critical. If at any point of time it goes down, I like to introspect, hey, what changed, right? And sometimes, um, especially in a marketplace driven kind of a environment, right? um, it's a red ocean, right?
Hmm.
Some customers uh, having a significant pricing change might affect that zeroth revenue, right? The zeroth
Hmm.
month revenue. So you have to be a little bit more careful if you are in a very red ocean kind of a segment. But if you don't have much competition, I think it is you can still get away with it, right? You don't have to like worry too much about competition. So this is my crude, not so a perfect way of analyzing. We still have PMF, and are we growing in that PMF?
Right. And this analysis, right? So, in your opinion, like, do you have a customer success team or some senior sales folk who monitor it constantly, or do you still like this is something that's founder led? And what would be your recommendation to like the first time early stage founders who should be more focused on this one?
I think these kind of questions, I think it has to be a founder-led thing, right? You cannot outsource it. I don't think I can outsource it anytime soon, right? But maybe when you grow large enough, maybe you can. But right now, see, the kind of problems that we are solving is not set in stone, right? It will change a bit, right? With market, it might change, right? With your competition, it might change. With customers' need, it might change, right? Internally, also, you might have a lot more clarity. And as a CEO, you drive that,
Hmm.
right? You are the person who is driving that vision, the direction of the company where it is going. So I think this is a super critical function which I don't think can be outsourced to an employee at our stages.
Interesting. So even like today, this is something that's founder led at your organization. You and
Yeah,
your
it
co.
is. It is. So we have customer success team.
Hmm.
They ensure that the customers who use our software find success. Right?
Hmm.
That's their objective, right? But what are we solving the right kind of problems? That's a larger question, right?
Hmm.
That defines the roadmap map that you create, right? That defines how you'll do marketing, right? How you'll position yourself in the market as well. So these are questions I think are still handled by the founder.
Right. So, Salil, in your opinion, like, what are the top three do's that you would recommend a founder focus on in his first year of journey when he's looking for a PMF? Any top three suggestions for him?
Sure thing. See, I think ensure that you're solving a pain point, right?
Mhm.
And I think this must have been recommended n number of times, but I still want to recommend the mom's test. It's a good way of doing customer interviews. The idea is very simple that you don't lead the customer into saying that they have a problem. So if I'm, for example, if I'm interviewing my customers, I shouldn't ask a leading question like, "Hey, what are your new customer acquisition problems?" Right?
Hmm.
If I ask that, I'm leading them towards an answer, right? That's a wrong way of doing customer interviews. My question should be more open-ended, right? It should be that, hey, what are the top three problems for you, right?
Hmm.
And if in the top three problems they mention that new customer acquisition is a problem for them, then you dig deeper. That's still fine. But a lot of times, for example, we tell all that what we are doing, and then that sets up an expectation. So having a very unbiased calls with customers is like the first thing that I would say. Second would be to pick a GTM that matches your ACV value, right? If your ACV is, let's say, annual value is, let's say, around thou- uh, you know $1,000, right? You cannot do it by sales,
Right.
right? Because that will not work out, right? The maths wouldn't work out, right? Um, so it's very important to understand what kind of go-to-market strategies would work based
Hmm.
on your ACV values and where your customers are, and don't pick up on don't even like try things that will not work out. Right? There are enough resources out there to help you out to understand for which ACVs what kind of sales methodologies would work. There is inside sales, there is on the field sales, and on the field sales you need a large contract value. It cannot be a smaller value, right? That is one. That's the second thing. And the third one would be to you should be willing to change your product or your hypothesis based on this feedback, right? A lot of times we are very adamant. We say that, hey, we know what customer needs, right? And a lot of times customers would prove you wrong, right? They might need something else altogether. One reason, I'll give you an example. Um, so we, for the longest time, assumed that Google Shopping feed. We will like go deeper on Google Shopping feed, right? Because that's the first problem that we are solving for new customer acquisition for Shopify merchants. Now, some people do need it, right? But for a lot of people, that is like step number one. Now they want to do more things, right? And we wouldn't have guessed it without good customer conversations. So I think having that flexibility, right? Not just having those good customer conversations, but having that flexibility to change what you're doing based on customer conversations is like the third tip. And most of the time, people are very adamant about what they want to build, and they wouldn't change even if the customers say otherwise.
Right. I think most folks are engineers, so they just want to build what they think is right. But yeah, I think
Yeah,
over
yeah.
the time, you do understand that. Salil, I just want to bring this another point that there is since the startups have also become more glamorous thing. There is a lot
Mhm.
of noise also around it, right? And especially in the first year, you are hit by it. Should you join an accelerator? Should you do some branding, build your personal brand, do webinars,
Mhm.
and so many different things, right? Build
Right,
for
right.
VC, make a pitch
Sure.
deck for. So, what are those major noises that you found that one should, totally stay away from, so that they can focus on what is the right thing?
See, I don't think there is a right way of doing stuff, right?
Mm.
I think all of those things, right? Doing webinars, doing creating a personal brand, all of them, or like even pitching to VCs, like focusing on that first, right? Raise a big round and then start building. All of those are viable methods of doing things, right? But I think there is a founder fit to each of those methodologies, right? See, I know for a fact that I'm not a person who enjoys building a brand, right?
Mm.
A personal brand. So if you ask me to like build a Twitter following, I would hate it, right? Every single day, if I have to do a tweet, like do a thread, I wouldn't enjoy it. So, there is a more than saying that, one thing will work and the other thing will not work. You will have to choose, what is best for you and just stick with it, right? If it is a personal brand building, go for it. If you know that you're going to excel at it, go for it. In terms of distraction, see, I personally think, and this is true for, your life, personal life as well. Stop comparing too much, right? Um, if you start doing that comparison, because it is never ever oranges to oranges comparison. If you are trying to compare two different startups, right?
Right.
People like routinely talk about how people have gotten to 1 million in ARR in X number of years, right? They don't look at how much amount was burned while trying to achieve that, right? How many man hours were created for that. And there will be like exceptional companies, right? There are exceptional companies who have two, three people and are doing like couple of millions in ARR, right?
Right. Yeah.
Amazing outliers. And you kind of hear about these outliers more than the average people. And you kind of think about, hey, am I doing something wrong? Like, I have like this team of 4 or 5 people and we can't still get to 10,000 MRA. What is wrong with me? It's so reducing that comparison would be like the biggest piece of advice that I can give. Rest of the ways, that's up to the founder. Whatever works, go for it.
Right. Yeah. But I think like it's equally difficult to do that. Or what you're saying, like not trying to compare, because again there's like so much noise around. But I yeah, I mean that's definitely a very
Yeah.
great and important suggestion.
Personally, I like, I'm off social media, right? I don't get a lot of FOMO just because of that. And I think that helps, right? I don't see my friends doing fancy vacations. So I don't feel the uh, need to do those, or like, think, hey, when am I going to do this or something like that.
So
So,
Salil never
maybe that
feels a
helps.
FOMO of not being a thought leader that they say. You don't
No, no,
get
no,
that.
I don't. I actually, I'm not good at it. I know that I know that, and I don't enjoy it. Right? Now, I don't mind doing like help videos. So for our company, we do some help videos to help our prospective customers. That is okay, but I don't want to do the distribution where I'm like interacting with people. As long as it's a one-way communication, I'm happy about.
Awesome. So, Sunil, I just want to drive a discussion a little bit about AdNabu's journey. So,
Mhm.
in your journey so far, what has been your highest high and one lowest low so far?
Okay. Highest high. I can tell you like the lowest low first, I think, right? So this was the start of the pandemic, right? And what happened was that everyone was shutting down their marketing budget,
Mhm.
and our revenue was based on how much money you are spending in Google Ads. So suddenly everybody were like reducing their Google Ads budget, right? They were cutting it from whatever $10,000 to like $1,000, like bare minimum. So our revenue drops significantly. So it dropped almost I think 50% in 1 or 2 months, right? Like that time. It was a super scary time. I think afterwards it like picked up, but there was like this significant doubt, right? Like, hey, we have to pay salaries. We are paying salaries from the money that we have saved from like some time before. But have I failed my employees? I think more than the personal feeling, like I had this fear of like letting down people who have trusted and joined your company, right? Trusting your vision, what you want to do with the company, their like, because as founders we are very hugely privileged folks, right? I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, and he said, what's the worst that will happen, right? I have to shut down the startup and like take that the tech role, which is paying me 100 Ks or like, more than that maybe in India itself, right? So that's such a amazing privileged position to be in. And that's true with like most founders, right? But for most of our employees, that's not the case, right? If you let them go, they wouldn't easily get another job that easily, right? Maybe they would, but maybe they don't. So that was the lowest low. Highest high would be like, I think, the consistently growing revenue, man. Like that's an amazing. It's an invincible kind of a feeling, right? I have this Bear Metrics subscription, and if you log into it, everything is green, right? There's nothing red, right? Active customers is going, right? Your net revenue is increasing, MRR is increasing, everything is in green. It's just an amazing feeling, I think. And another feeling would be like sometimes when people give you like great reviews, right? And we, because we are in the Shopify app marketplace, we rely a lot on reviews.
Mhm.
Most of the times we get reviews for our support, which is fine. But like some of the rare times we will get this reviews which talk about, the software work like magic. That's when you're like, yes, I have done something in life. Now I have made that person feel really awesome using that software. So those are the highs that I can think of.
What's the best testimonial that you have received so far for AdNabu?
It's in the same lines, right? So they talk about how it was like magic. So we have apps which help in this journey, right, of new customer acquisition. One of the thing is tracking conversions accurately in Google Ads, and we have a small plugin for that. And it's a one-click kind of a thing. So people would otherwise spend a lot of time trying to do this code editing manually, etc., on their website. And these store owners are not developers. Right? Like they wouldn't know how to change these values. Ours is a single-click thing, right? And we say that it's 2 minutes, but actually it's not even 2 minutes, right? It's maybe like a couple of seconds. And
Okay.
sometimes, they would say about this, it worked like magic. And I think that word magic has always fascinated me. I think like good software should be like magic. And when someone else tells you that the software that you built is magic, there's no greater feeling than that.
Interesting. And Salil, currently, like, what are your top three marketing channels that you're trying or that have worked for you to in order to scale AdNabu?
Sure. See, marketplace is because we are in the Shopify app marketplace. Most of our revenue, most of our customers come from that, right? So we are very very concerned about it. We try to optimize it as much as we can. There is app store optimization. Then comes app store ads, which is again in the app marketplace itself. That is a big channel for us. Content is the third, and we are now experimenting with partnerships, right? And partnerships would mean with tying up with agencies who create Shopify stores for customers, and tie up with them early so that we can be with the customer from right from day zero.
Any particular geography for partnerships that you're targeting? Is it specific to India, Asia Pacific?
See, interestingly enough, a lot of Shopify experts are in India, right? Well,
Okay.
India has a significant market share in that. So even though the stores are opening in US, it will be a guy based out of India doing the initial app store setup, theme setup, etc. So the initial Shopify store setup. So we see a lot of partners in India, but it's still early for us, right? We have not really cracked the partnership channel, I would say. Things that work well for us are marketplace ads and content marketing
Interesting.
in that order.
Okay, okay. So, Salil, like going ahead now, what are your growth plans for AdNabu, and what is that North Star that you are going after?
So, see, I think I want to be a little short-sighted here, right? I want to get to a million in ARR, right?
Hmm.
That is like that's always been a dream, and I think of maybe if you ask me this question 1 year back, I would have been not so sure about it. So I'm much more confident now that we will be able to do it. So we want to do that by 2023 end, right? So let's see if we can do that. I'm hopeful of doing that. Larger vision is to can we become the largest app developer for Shopify, right? I think that's a big if. There are like a lot of other companies vying for the same spot, right? But let's try, right? What's the worst that can happen?
No, definitely, and I'm sure the way you guys are going, definitely, 1 million in ARR doesn't seem too far fetched. So lastly, Sahil, just wanted to understand, like, if let's say hypothetically, if you were to start AdNabu again, right? What
Mm-hmm.
would you do differently, and what are the key learnings for you that you would want to share with the early stage founders who are right in their first year
Right.
or like starting up?
I think if I have to start again, right, even before starting up, I would think about the go-to-market strategy that I have to go with. Right,
Hmm.
that is something that I had this engineer mentality, which was you build it and they will come, right?
Hmm.
So not true, right? So not true. And I would instead think of ways of selling the software, or maybe figure out the go-to-market strategy first, and then start developing the product, right? Taken like a MVP out, right? Get the distribution for that MVP first before like building a lot of feature bloat, right? So I think that will give you a lot of focus. That will give you confidence that you will be able to reliably sell your product once the product is fully built out. And that will like decrease a lot of anxiety and the time to market, time to revenue, man. Like I think that will be like a game changer. I would have been able to like save, I'm pretty sure, a few years of the startup journey if I had to do it again.
And Salil, how would you define how much MVP you want to create? Because again, as an engineer, you want to keep building more features, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
already
yeah.
feel something is pending. I don't want to
Mhm.
release right now. So
Right.
how would you define that?
You see, MVP cannot be something that you are super proud of, right?
Hmm.
If you're super proud of it, it's actually late, right? So the way I have approached MVPs is that I have given a time limit, right?
Hmm.
Because whatever you do, right, you would plan that these n number of features would be done by that week. Like it will not happen. Like some feature will be like missing for sure. So I have
Hmm.
always given a timeline, like this is the day I want to release. Whatever features are ready by that, I'll do it. But I'll also create, in an order of decreasing priority, my assumptions about what features are most important for a minimum viable product. It has to solve some problem for sure.
Hmm.
So for us, I'll give you an example. So for Google Shopping, our MVP was that um, we will be able to like send data from Shopify to Google Shopping. Otherwise, there is no problem that we are solving, and we will do that with some suggestion, right? Saying that hey, you are doing this wrong, or this product is not optimized.
Hmm.
That was the differentiating factor that we thought we could bring into the market, right? At that point of time, we did not have multi-currency support. We did not have multi-language support, right?
Hmm.
We didn't have like most of the features, man. It was like just a barely workable thing. It was not optimized. If I look at those screenshots now, I like cringe about it. Hey, it was so bad. But I think it's important to get those things out first, especially if you are in an SMB stage, right? You'll get a lot of market feedback. Now,
Hmm.
our customers tell us a lot about what they really want and how much, whether they will pay for that as well, right? They wouldn't be like too accurate about it, but you still get an idea about how much value that you are providing these to your customers after building those features. So I think uh, a dirty version is still better than a unreleased perfect version.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's a very interesting insight from that. So I think we have one question here in comments for folks who want to ask questions. You can put up in the comment section. So I'll just ask that. It reads: How do you foresee future customer needs so that you always have PMF?
Yeah, a lot of times your customers would tell you, right? We have something called as a feature suggestions box.
Hmm.
So customers would give their thoughts. Other customers would vote on it, and we will try to take the top voted things. And we have this ROA and ROE framework, right? Which is ROA is whether these features add value to the customers, right?
Hmm.
And ROE is like whether these features add value to the company as well, right? So we use this to figure out what are the top things to work on, and we constantly improve it. And I think you might not be perfect, right? But you'll be if even if you're 80% right about these things, it's fine.
Right. And are there any like specific questions that you ask your customers during the customer interview to identify PMF? If you have like one or two examples.
No, as said, right, it shouldn't be a leading questions, right? You have to try to see if the problem that they're solving is actually what you thought the product is solving. Sometimes I have seen that they have a different problem altogether, and they are like kind of substituting your product to solve that particular problem, right? Maybe they don't have enough people in the team, that's why, and they immediately point they have a person they would like chuck your software out. So having that very honest conversation is like good. Second thing, at least for us, right, because we are dealing with a lot of customers, right, and a lot of them are using it as a freemium model. We look at their session recordings a lot, right? Because we assume that they will use the software in a certain way, but they might not, right? They would use a particular part of the software a lot more, which was not initially planned, and then we will try to optimize on that. So these are like some of the things that I have done to kind of optimize that.
Interesting. And like just to again reiterate to the folks, so he was referring to the Mom Test. It's an amazing book. So I think it's a must read for everybody out there. So lastly, so Mom Test was one of the books that you recommended. So any other books or podcasts that you refer to, or would you recommend to again early stage founders?
Yeah, sure.
It's fine to look at. Yeah.
Yeah, man. See, there is a brilliant book on positioning, right?
Hmm.
There is a book on that is I forgot about the name, but it's a very famous book. It's about positioning. It's the Bible of positioning. If you search for it,
Hmm.
like you'll get it. Um,
Is it
they
obviously
don't
awesome?
obviously awesome is like something that is more for SaaS. Is it obviously awesome more for SaaS?
I think it was around positioning. Maybe I could be wrong. It was by April Dunford, so I remember that. But yeah.
Paperback 2019. It's an older book, right? This
Okay.
positioning book that I'm talking about, it's an older book. I
Okay.
think this is not it. But they talk about like first mover advantages. If
Hmm.
you are not the first mover, what else will you do?
Right.
That book was very revealing to me. Like I know it kind of questioned a lot of assumptions that I had about um, uh, you know building a company, right? Having because your customers are not constantly thinking about the problems that you're solving, right?
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
I'm a Shopify merchant, I'm not like always thinking about, hey, what is the best that I can do with shopping? I have like thousands of problems to worry about.
Right.
So how do you like capture the customer's interest and have a position for you in their mind is very, very important. Um, with respect to podcast, I listen to like a lot of non-business podcast. That's like my way of winding down, like get myself a little distracted. Um, Positioning the battle for movement. I think that is it. Yeah, battle
Okay.
for movement. That is it. The one podcast that I recently found out was startup therapy, right?
Okay.
Uh, it's as it sounds. It's a very interesting podcast. It's two founders talking about. It questions a lot of assumptions that you have about what success would mean for a founder as a not just as a SaaS founder, as a startup founder. I found that podcast to be really, really good. I also listened to I forgot about the title, but it's an investment firm. They have
Mhm.
like some good speakers. I recently listened to a product-led growth episode of theirs, so that was pretty good. If I can't find the name, I'll like tell you. But these are like my top recommendations.
Sure, no issues. Maybe later on we can maybe put it in the webinar comment or somewhere there. I'll
Yeah,
even
yeah, yeah,
add.
for sure. Yeah.
Well, I think it was great having you, Salil. I think this was definitely a very fruitful session. Got to know a lot about AdNabu, the journey, and I think how to have the right mental models for PMF. I think the avoiding the noise bit was very useful, I'd say, and also like tracking the right metrics for when we are hitting the PMF. So definitely it was a great session. I wish all the best to AdNabu and the dreams and the visions that you guys are chasing. Thanks to Pekka for having this. It was pleasure having everyone here. And yeah, thank you so much. This is Ashwani along with Salil. We are signing off. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, guys. It was like great, Ashwini, like talking to you. The podcast that I was talking about was SaaS District. If you
SaaS
guys want to
district.
check it
Okay.
out. Yeah.
Got it.
All
Awesome.
right. Thanks, guys. I hope it has added some value to your life, right? Anyway, great, great. Ashwini, it was a good chat. Maybe if you are here in Bangalore, we'll like catch up and chat more.
For sure. I'm based out of Bangalore, so we'll connect
Awesome,
for sure.
awesome,
Awesome.
awesome.
Thank you, Salil. Have a great day. Thank you everyone for listening. Signing off now. Thank you.